now my mind is blown. No surprise, guess I should have known. Oh, my mind, now my mind is blown. No surprise, guess I should have known. You got control of me, break my barricades. Walls are crumbling, grounds they shake. You came to save, but it's way too late. Every single time you stay, I cave.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Neurodivergent News, where we are redefining what it means to be neurodivergent. It means different, not damaged. Today, I am so excited to be here. I am Deanna Brakefield, your host and owner of Lionheart Kingdom Marketing. I am a mother of 7 beautiful children, 6 of which are neurodivergent, along with me and my husband. So we've had lots of experience, not just talking about this, but living in this world. I have an amazing young man with me today. He has his own podcast. He is highly competent in talking about his own experiences in this world. He is a coach. I have with me Matt. Matt, say hello.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So tell us just a little bit about yourself.
So I was just diagnosed autistic this year, about 3 or 4 months ago. I had been sort of self-identifying for a year or two before that, and then I got the official diagnosis. Um, and I started the podcast just as I'm an external processor, and I just kind of needed a space to talk things out. And I was just kind of talking to the void at first, and then people started listening, and it's kind of evolved from there.
It's kind of the way it goes, isn't it?
Yeah.
So tell us just a little bit about your podcast, Adult Autism, My Autistic World.
Yeah, so this first season has been really just me working through the diagnosis, going over the whole autism profile and talking about my own experience. Um, and then I'm just gonna wrap that up real soon, and then into the second season, I'll be interviewing every episode, talking to other people about their experiences.
Okay, that's fascinating. So you said you were only diagnosed about a year ago, but I'm sure you've had suspicions for years, things that stood
Right.
out when you were growing up.
Absolutely. I always, felt a little different. Didn't have a lot of friends growing up, had some social struggles. Um, I uh, have gone through several misdiagnoses because, trying to figure out there's something there, trying to figure out what it is. And the first one was they misdiagnosed me with a severe form of bipolar.
Oh no.
Uh, and it was, they extremely over medicated me. And that diagnosis itself was very traumatic. It's a lot of trauma growing up without a diagnosis. You get labeled different things, or you don't have that label, you don't know what's going on, you get labeled defiant, rude,
Hmm.
all these other labels that get slapped on you anyway. Um, and then, I finally kind of thought I had an answer, and they pumped me full of medication, and the medication never quite worked.
Hmm.
So we changed it up constantly. They were, changing my meds and putting, upping my doses, and couldn't figure out why it was happening. I think in hindsight now, we were mapping a lot of the, what we thought was mania. We were kind of mapping to autistic meltdowns and shutdowns,
Okay.
kind of being misidentified there.
Huh.
So it was that was a pretty traumatic experience. Finally I went to a different doctor and got a different explanation. They kind of took that away. At the time, my best friend had that severe form of bipolar. And I was living with her and doing a lot of, things with her that I think that just, following everything that she did, doing everything that she was doing was kind of what they how they came up with that diagnosis in the first place. But that first diagnosis, they only talked to me about 10 minutes.
What?
Yeah, it was the shortest. I've had a couple other psych evals and assessments since then, and they've never been that short. That first one, he asked such basic, short questions. I think from the limited amount of information that he had, I probably would have come up with bipolar too.
It sounds
I don't know how.
like he was just trying to brush you off and get you out of his office.
Well, yeah, I think that he just kind of had it in his head before he talked to me. That's kind of how I feel about it. That talking to me didn't really shape his diagnosis at all. So
That is unfortunately typical, but sad.
yeah, yeah, I've heard a lot of people talk about misdiagnosis. I did an episode on the podcast about it, and I've talked to people after that. A lot of people get misdiagnosed because there's not a lot of um, awareness for adult diagnosis. I know it used
Yes.
to be a criteria for diagnosis that you had to be, I think it was under 7. So, they aren't even looking for it in adults, and that's starting to change.
Well, I mean, you're right. The attitude is completely changing over at least the last decade.
Yeah.
I remember when my husband went for his diagnosis when we were in our late 20s, they were like, well, you've lived with it your whole life. What's the point? Why are you asking for this?
Right, right. I've heard that from other people a lot that, it's, well, why does it matter at this point in your life? Well, you reimagine. It's such a relief to get that answer, and like relive your whole life with a new explanation of everything. It's life changing. It's really,
Affirming.
yeah,
You're
yeah,
not
very affirming.
you're not alone. You know
Yeah,
your experiences are real.
right.
So tell me a little bit about what you're up to professionally these days.
Yeah, so I was doing some mental health coaching. I going through questioning and the whole autism diagnosis. It was a whole identity crisis. I didn't feel, I guess, well focused to do that work at the time, and I kind of went back to. I have a lot of food service experience before that, so I went back into that. That's what I'm doing right now. Um, and you know, I want to get back into coaching. I feel called to work with autistic people again.
Hmm.
Um, I just, I feel like this is all new to me. I have a lot to learn. I'm learning a lot. A little bit more life experience. That's kind of where I see my future is getting into coaching with autistic people.
So do you think it'll be more challenging coaching autistics versus coaching neurotypicals?
I feel like we speak the same language. And I think that, not to say that autistic people are like all the same or anything like that. Every autistic person is so unique. But it's the same language, just that we are able to speak to each other better. And that's kind of how I felt, living my life not knowing that I was autistic too. Like everybody else was speaking a different language. So I do feel like having, a coach who is able to speak your language will be powerful.
Well, I mean, it's about shared experiences and common
Yeah.
vernacular and things that ways of thinking that aren't common sense for the neurotypical.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Just a different process around things for sure.
So let me ask you a question. Have you experienced any burnout in the last couple of years just trying to find your answers?
Oh goodness. Yeah. I I think my whole adult life has been a cycle of burnout. This burnout that I'm kind of clawing my way back out of right now, probably the last 3 years, I've been pretty good into burnout.
Okay.
Yeah, I've just been so drained, just exhausted with, it's overwhelming. I mean, so the process of kind of questioning and getting that answer, and how it was this like whole identity crisis. Um, and I think the first thing that comes up, at least for me, um, there's a lot of internalized ableism, you know. So I really had to learn because I'm not I really didn't know much about neurodivergence before I started looking into that. But I had to learn that it is different, not broken. That it is um just there wasn't anything wrong with me. That it wasn't something that I had. That it wasn't something that was like a negative label on me. Um, I had to go through kind of all of that, accepting that diagnosis at first, and I felt like I was I don't know. The more that like I took some online tests and was more exposed to what autism really meant, I just went through a period of like feeling foolish that I hadn't kind of figured it out earlier, and even kind of resentful that other people in my childhood weren't asking more questions. So I had a lot to kind of process through with that, and that was a lot to kind of handle and really, really wore me out. Um, but came through the other side. I understand that it is different, not less, not broken, not anything negative. It's just I understand why I am the way that I am, and I am really starting to learn how to use it as a strength.
That's very, very interesting. So, the way I usually frame that is our neurodivergence almost gives us superpowers. Um,
Right. And
what are some of yours?
what I am, I don't know. I think that I learn things really fast. I dive deep into things. I will read every resource that I can, and I just really kind of when I want to learn something, I get kind of obsessive about it, and I
Oh,
really, yeah, I take in so much information, and I want to understand every single detail of it. So I think that that's something that is really a strength for me is how fast I can learn things and how deeply I can learn them.
I hear that a lot. Is it an element of hyper focus or is it just
Yeah.
collecting details?
A little, a little both. I get very hyper focused, and I'm really, it's that like top down, bottom up thinking that I really need to fill in all of the details to really understand something.
Uh-huh. So, oh my goodness, I feel like such a moron this morning. It's a weird day, is it not?
It is. It's something. I don't know. It's a odd day.
So tell me a little bit more about you. Do you have any siblings? Are your parents still with you? Are you in a relationship?
Yeah, I am married. My husband and I have been together a little over 7 years. We've been married a little over 7 years. We've been together about 12.
Congratulations.
Um, thank you. Unfortunately, my family is not very supportive, and I am not in contact with most of my family um, for my sexuality.
Well, I mean, not everybody is open-minded about everything that's going on in the world these days. I'm sorry for you about that. But
Yeah,
hopefully you found more family in the neurodivergent community as you've been learning.
absolutely. Yeah, it's you know, my chosen family, I have made a lot of close relationships with people. It's been nice.
So, in your area of the country, and this is a hot topic, and so I'm sorry to ask you this, but I'm nosy. Are you finding that there is a higher percentage of homosexuality in the neurodivergent community where you are?
I mean, I guess I don't really have the comparative lens of how it is in other places, but I would say that there is a lot. I think I heard a statistic at one point that there was almost um, like 60 or 70% of neurodivergent people are somewhere in the LGBTQIA plus realm.
Okay. Yeah, well, I found it's very similar down here. I wouldn't say that like it's a majority or anything, but it seems like if nothing else, they're more vocal.
Yeah, yeah, maybe, and maybe it's
I think it's pride in being who you are, regardless of what that means.
right, right. I think that maybe we are more, I don't want to say aware, but just kind of once we are aware, we're vocal. We own it and have pride in it.
And I think it's beautiful. I wish that more neurotypical typicals would be as vocal because it is a shared community. It's not about sexuality, even though those that are in the LGBTQ community tend to be more vocal about everything.
Yeah. Mm.
Or at least that's been my personal experience.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. I think our experiences, we've a lot of us go through a lot of bullying and things like that I think a lot of us are just not we don't take it, we don't just accept things the way that they are. We're going to be vocal.
And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that because, self advocacy, regardless of where you fall on any spectrum, is a life skill that we all need desperately.
Absolutely.
So, is there anything else that you would like to share with us today? I know we've touched on and danced around some of the PTSD stuff that we had discussed before.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, growing up, they don't, at least I guess in the, 80s and 90s when I was a kid, they really didn't want to put a label on kids if you weren't kind of severely disabled.
Mhm.
They weren't, eager to slap a label on it. Um, which, I suppose they, were doing what they thought was right. But in the absence of that, you get all those other labels.
Right.
Um, yeah, I mean, people, one thing that I got a lot of personally was that I over explain things, and I just, I use a lot of words. I just say things in a way that I feel like I get misunderstood by neurotypicals a lot.
Uh-huh.
And all through my childhood and I would, say things as like carefully and accurately as I could and still like be accused of lying a lot. that was incredibly frustrating through my childhood, because I was being so specific and accurate, and didn't come across the same way to them, and I would be told that I was a liar. Um, so you get all these labels from being misunderstood, and that's traumatic. The way that you end up looking at yourself like you are the problem,
Uh-huh.
that's hard. That's hard growing up that way. You know, I think a lot of us get told that we're defiant and can't just follow directions. I did a lot of, doing things my own way and not, following the way that I was told because it didn't work for me. And, I would get told that I was so difficult, and you start to look at yourself that way. And I, for a long time, really had a problem with, I'd apologize for everything. Everything that I did, I felt like I had to apologize.
Yes, I no, I empathize with you there. I was very much in that same seat.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, when you finally get the answer and find out, I feel like so much of that trauma has healed for me, because of having the diagnosis. I wish that I had had it as a kid. The time has passed, I just accept that. But, um, it's so affirming. It's such a relief to finally let go of that lens that I saw myself through most of my life, and to realize that I'm not the problem.
You're absolutely correct. I mean, yet the diagnosis is helpful because, it, like you said, it's affirming, it's an explanation. You finally understand why everything has always been the way it is, but it shouldn't be necessary. In
Yeah,
my opinion, there should be more acceptance in general going on.
I agree. Yeah, and I think that we sometimes struggle a little to get little accommodations that we need. Not necessarily in employment, but just like in social settings and stuff. Um, and I think that instead of having to like self-advocate so hard, which is a skill that I'm still working on, um, but I really feel like we should all just be accommodating to everyone, regardless of why. Just somebody says that they are struggling with something or need a little help with something. Why can't everybody just accommodate for everybody?
Do you have any advice for adults out there that may be dealing with children that were similar to you growing up on how they should approach their child?
That's a really good question. I think that if I kind of thinking of myself as a child, what I feel would have really helped was just somebody really listening,
Mhm.
just, not coming up with your own explanation, or, trying to kind of shut it down and, kind of like force them into the behavior that you want from them. Just really listening and like approaching it with curiosity, and asking, why are you doing this thing? Why doesn't the way that we expect you to do it work for you? I think that would have been a very, very helpful way for somebody to have approached me when I was a kid.
So, have you participated in any outreach in the last couple of years other than your podcast?
Uh, Really mainly the podcast, and I participate in a lot of Facebook groups and things like that, just talking to a lot of people. Um, Starting to look at some local organizations. I haven't really gotten involved there yet, but yeah, hoping to get more and more involved now that I have the diagnosis, and that's really with the podcast too. That's really been my mission, is helping others and bringing more awareness and representation for other adults, the adult autistics.
So it sounds like your mission has really been to keep the conversation going.
Right. Yeah.
So on my show, I usually ask an oddball question. As neurotypical or as neurodivergents, see, listen to me, I can't even speak this morning. As neurodivergents, we typically tend to develop oddball hobbies and interests. Would you be
Yeah.
willing to share one of yours with us?
I mean, a recent like rabbit hole that I've fallen down. Um, and I mean, I guess there's been different iterations of it, so I guess it's not just like recent, but a recent rabbit hole that I've fallen down because they just put some new seasons up on Netflix. The Ancient Aliens.
What
It's so, huh?
what
Do
what,
you
I'm not familiar with
you
it.
you don't know Ancient Aliens? So they've become a meme because they are just off the wall, but it is so interesting. Regardless, maybe they get like one or two things right in the whole series. But they have so many like off the wall theories about aliens visiting like in ancient times and where technology on Earth comes from. It is so fascinating. I've been very obsessed with it in the past couple months. Um, yeah, they
That is
they
not a
are.
rabbit hole I have fallen down before.
Yeah, it's a wild ride watching it. They have some really crazy theories, but maybe one or two of them are right. I don't know. They're kind of throwing everything at the wall and seeing what might be there.
Fascinating. I actually made a note of the name. I am actually going to go look that up. That sounds interesting.
Yeah, it is a really entertaining show.
Well, Matt, it has been an absolute pleasure having you on with me today. Do you have any last thoughts for my audience?
Um, I mean, I just I love your message. I want to just sort of amplify that about being different, not broken. I think that that's, such a powerful message to have out there.
Well, I appreciate that. Well, Matt, if people are more interested in your podcast or just in having a conversation with you, how do they get in touch?
Yeah. So everything's linked from my link tree. So it's linktr.ee/my autistic world. You can get to the podcast and all of my socials from there.
It sounds like you've really got it together, probably better than I do at this point. Well, like I said, it has been an absolute pleasure having you on today. I would love for an update in a couple of months to hear how things are going with the podcast and how things are going in your life in general. If that would be interesting
Definitely.
to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, has been a great conversation and another episode of Neurodivergent News. If anybody is interested in getting in touch with Matt, all of his contact information will be in the associated blog post, along with any other interesting little tidbits that I decide to share about him. Um, Everybody have a glorious and wonderful day.